And good morning to you. Back to the morning show on this Tuesday here at the flagship station with WIDU 1600 AM, 2520 Murchison Road. And the weather out there is a 74 earlier. I think the high today is 82, which that's some great weather. But look, hold it, we're still in August. Don't get your hopes up. It's probably going to be scorching, maybe August through September. Don't know. But yesterday it was raining so hard. Oh my God! I went to Hunter County, went up to Lillington, and man, I couldn't even see the road. And the little lake behind me this morning is up. So hopefully this helps the drought. But anyway, we're going to be talking about some important stuff on today, and glad to have the cast in with us, and it is a cast. We have City County Commissioner Brenda McNair from District 7. Mr. Robert Van Giers, he's the president CEO of the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Andrew Marcel, am I say that?
Mansell.
Mansell, right. I left the N off of that. Okay. Mansell, assistant to the city manager, and Mr. Andy Brayboy, senior performance analyst. And this is how it's going to roll, guys. They took a trip to some data centers up in Northern Virginia. If you don't know, I've done my research. Virginia has more data centers than anybody else in the whole country. Is that factually correct? Yeah, right. And some marvelous stuff's happening. So we're going to lead off with this conversation with Robert and let him talk. And then all you guys went, right? You guys went. Okay, yes. All of them went, to include Councilmember McNair. And I think the mayor went along with Councilmember Malik Davis, correct? So they took a field trip.
And the city manager.
And the city manager. And so what they're doing, they're coming back and reporting to the people, okay? So we'll shoot off with Robert. Good morning, sir.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
And good morning to all you guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've always talked about, at least in our shop on economic development, is we want to have a diverse economy. We want to increase the tax base. We want to create a variety of good and better paying jobs for our citizens across industry sectors for folks with different backgrounds. And I think going back to the data center side of things is we had started getting, because of the power infrastructure we have here, because of the sites we have, we started getting preliminary calls from folks who were kind of looking at us. And we started talking about the fact that we felt that we needed to have regulations to govern that and to try to regulate something and be prepared for it coming to your community. You need to know it and know it well. I think I was actually on my own, went through and visited the area that we eventually visited. Loudoun County has over 250 plus data centers, adding them more every day. They're, I think, the most wealthy per capita county in the country, and they actually generate more than $1.3 billion a year in tax base. But we didn't go because of what it generates for them. We went, or I encouraged people to go, and I think Andrew and Andy really put this together for the city, because you have to understand and know it firsthand. We wanted to be up there to see what it's like, to walk amongst them, to learn from their 25 plus years of experience, the things that they wish they'd done different earlier, the way the overall industry has changed. And I think that's what we had the chance to do, was to stand next to one, to talk to people on the street, to discuss what it's like from a governmental and regulatory standpoint, and to also talk to the companies that are operating and learn how they've evolved, what their true impacts or lack thereof are, and ways that we can best try to manage how things can coexist, be that from buffering and setbacks to barriers, separation distances, to the types of operations that you require the companies to use.
So it's 250 in that.
I believe it's 253 with more coming out of the ground, probably another dozen or so.
Yeah.
That's incredible
right now.
Wow, that's Andrew. That's just incredible.
Yes, sir.
A lot. That's so you guys putting this together. Then I guess, well, you have this information anyway, and this sightseeing trip that you guys went on. How would you respond to what you saw? Was that your first time viewing, putting an eyeball on that?
Yes, sir. And that's a great point. As we're planning this trip, looking at potential sites to visit, reviewing some of the videos that Mr. Van Giens put together online, and where he had the decimal reader and different locations as far as why we should look at this place as opposed to this place. We're looking at the maps. We're kind of walking the routes before we get there to get an idea. But doing that and seeing it in person, two very different things. You don't understand the scale, the size, just all of them together is truly incredible to see in person as opposed to looking at it online before you get there.
Sure. And also you have Andy, you're the senior performance analyst. First of all, what do you do? I mean, what is that? I know what the word is, but help us out here. What does a senior performance analyst do?
Right. So I'm considered the data guy for the city of Fayetteville. So we track all key performance indicators for the city, basically all high-level metrics, which shows that the city is in good standing from a data perspective. We keep track of council scorecard, which shows high-level metrics, which gauges the health of the city. So that can be anywhere from is our solid waste pickups on time, those type of metrics. What is our rating as a city, our bond rating, stuff like that. So when it comes to projects such as this, I really dig into the numbers as much as possible. But you can imagine for a data center, that's not as easy as it would seem. These facilities, as Andrew was mentioning, it's not like a Planet Fitness where you can just pull into the parking lot. So they're gated. You have to get special access in a lot of cases, especially the center that we toured. But Andrew and I, from a logistics perspective, we were literally on Google Earth and trying to drop down and see exactly where we could logistically pull into driveways, parking lots, businesses, that's in a business complex, so that we could facilitate this tour as best as possible for council.
Sure. Now I know that part of the argument, Robert, and also Ms. McNair, is that some say, well, they target these poor areas. Well, I have a sister lives in Stafford. Stafford a little further down, but I was up there for a meeting several years back, and I didn't want to stay in the city, and I was just there with them, and I was catching the train back and forth. There's not a lot of poor people on that end. I'm sure they got some poverty in Virginia, but not around that. As you stated, it's one of the most affluent areas, counties in the country. So it's not like the whole myth that they're targeting poor areas, that can't be true.
Well, I think that I've definitely, looking at historic practices and things that have been done, I understand why people may assume that because of past practices of other industries. But frankly, in this case here, it is different. You look at where we've seen them, we went to visit them in RTP, they're in Charlotte, they're in Raleigh, they're in Richmond, they're in this Loudoun County area, and what do they all have in common? And that's why I think we went to Loudoun County, because it's the most intense place with the assets of power infrastructure and fiber optic connectivity. For Fayetteville, for Cumberland County, we could never, even if we wanted to, which I don't think we do, I know we don't, be that dense. We could do maybe 3 or 4 of these types of projects. But if you go to the place where it's most intense, you can then back that down into what it would mean for you in a smaller level of it. But to your point, these are well-infrastructured places. And quite frankly, one of the challenges we have here in Eastern North Carolina is we are undercapitalized, underinvested in historically from an infrastructure standpoint. So they are going to the places that they have the power, where they have the fiber optics, and where they have the capacity to do this. And frankly, in this case, for these, most of them are actually on the middle to upper end of local incomes, because they are places that already have good infrastructure and development.
So, Councilmember McNair, now you're in the policy side of the house, and so I guess, I want to help you, but what are we going to do for those people that want to shout down these people just to give people information? They want to scream and holler and not let people hear what needs to be said and allow the public to make up their own mind. I mean, you guys, can you offer a olive leaf or something, olive branch to say to the community, hey, look, we're all on the same team here, aren't we?
Yes, we're on the same team, but I do believe that our hands are tied when it comes to that, because like they always like to mimic, we work for them. And so what we have to do, we have to sit there and listen and, and not give any feedback during our meetings. But however, we are doing the best that we can to get all the information out. That's my heart and that's my passion. We had a 120-day stay, and it would end August 25th. And so my drive was to make sure that I had all the information to make the right decision or the sound decision when it comes to data center. And taking this trip with these guys, they are professionals, which I admire a lot. I lean a lot on them because they're the ones that make everything happen. We have to make decisions based on their information. And so, therefore, that's why we're here today. And I really appreciate and thank you guys for showing up this morning at the last minute. It was the last minute. It was before we left City Council meeting last night, and they agreed to come out and share with the community our experience that we had when we went to Loudoun County, which I was very impressed with. My hotel actually was sitting right in the middle of all those data centers. So at night before I went to bed, I went out and I did a test, and I listened from my room. And then in the middle of the night, I didn't hear anything. But when I woke up in the morning, I heard a little fan or something. I said, "What is that?" So what I did, I left my room and I went out in the hallway. And so I noticed there was a window. My room was actually at the end of the hotel building. And so I could see out the window on the side in the hallway. And I looked down and there was this huge condenser fan. And so that's what I heard during the night. So I heard that, and so that made me go outside. So once I went outside, I went out and I took my phone, I took pictures, and I listened. I didn't hear anything. So the noise was actually coming from the condenser fan from the hotel. And so it was a huge condenser fan. And that's the only noise that I heard, except for the little fan, across the street, whatever, in the traffic.
Sure.
I mean, I hear more noise than that, at my house on 71st School Road.
Yeah.
Every night, I'm waking up, panic attacks, and my dog shooting underneath the bed because of a whole bunch of noise. We need to work on that in the city of Fayetteville. But other than that, I was very impressed. The buildings was beautiful. A1 structure. You can't get any better than that. You can't get any better than that.
I think the team did a really good job.
Yeah.
We met with leadership from the county. We were able to go into facilities, even into the generators themselves. We got to stand right next to the units. But I think Councilmember McNair did one of the best things was we walked alongside of one of the probably most intense facilities. We stood on the other side of the buffer from that. But then Councilmember McNair says, well, there's some people over there. I want to go talk to them. And then council took upon themselves, people pulling up in their cars, people coming and going, working in their yards, people coming and going from work, and just stopped and talked to a whole bunch of different residents in a variety of different housing neighborhoods, some of them directly across from, some that back up to, and some of them in close proximity to these different sized data centers.
Actually, it was located in, $500,000 homes or $1 million homes that I was very, very impressed.
Yeah.
And we did talk to the citizens there, and they didn't have any problems with the data center right across the street.
Sure. Well, I think that's going to be important. I think you all did a very important thing, and that was to go take a look for yourself. I remember back in around 2010. Were you here then when we was doing things with Sanderson Farms?
Not yet.
Yeah, but man, it was terrible. People were against it. Now, I understand, I'm comparing a chicken wing to a megabyte, but still. Conceptually, the deal was to bring industry here. And they were saying, look, all the things that you all saying that are bad about it's not going to happen. And it was one in Kinston, and they wanted people to go up and take a look. And we had some elected leaders that chose not to even go look. And still, they stood on the sideline and threw rocks at this. And I just think we don't want that to happen again, okay? For those individuals that are so against this, particularly those that put their hand on the Bible and swear to uphold the Constitution and all the other stuff, go take a look. As a citizen, that's what I'm asking. I think that's fair, don't you?
Well, I do wish, and it's not, everybody doesn't have the means or the time to do it.
Sure.
But I do wish that everyone who is concerned on either side of this issue could have that opportunity to go and actually stand right next to one, be at a house around the corner from. And I think importantly, they in Loudoun County started on this 20 plus years ago, and they had very minimal regulations. They treated them like an office building. So they don't have big setbacks. And now they're starting to add buffers, add greater buffering. And I think that that's important for people to know here. I think that we are taking a look at, and the ordinances that the city is currently considering and looking at, all of them are planned to have greater buffering, screening, and we continue to learn more about the ways we can require the highest level of operation and the least level of impact. But I think it's important, regardless if it's a Sanderson Farmside project this year, that we need to find balance. We want to be able to have jobs and investment. We also want to protect neighbors, and I think it's finding the right way to do that and doing it in a scientific way, that our standards are tied to things that can be measured, quantified, and ensuring that we're requiring companies to do the absolute best to be able to minimize their impact while providing a benefit to the community.
Sure, Andrew. Is the League of Municipalities, did they have a position or anything to your knowledge on this? I mean, I on my streaming TV, I've seen some commercials running that promoting the use of data centers, and I don't know where it's coming from or who, the little tiny writing, who's sponsoring that. But have they taken a position on this, to your knowledge?
Not that I'm aware of, sir. Maybe Mr. Van Giens knows more about that. But to speak to what Ms. McNair's point earlier about information, AI has, a byproduct of AI has put a lot of information at our fingertips, which is a two-edged sword, right? There's good information and there's bad information, and there's so much of it out there, and it's difficult to kind of filter what's true, what are the real impacts of data centers. There's just so many stories out there, and like Mr. Brabo was talking about, each of these data centers are heavily secured. You can't get inside of them. So not only is there a lot of information out there that you have to figure out what's true and what's not true, you can't even get in to see for yourself. And that's not because they're hiding things, they're protecting their data. That's why those facilities are secured. So that's one of the hardest part about our research, is kind of filtering through that, through the misinformation, through what is true, and we're looking at what regulations can be in place and what are the best things to make sure that a data center like a data center would be properly regulated in our community.
Sure. Well, I believe, from my understanding, legislatively they've been looking at this as well in Raleigh. So it's not like you are all by yourself. They're looking at state legislation that will put some borders or boundaries to what could happen. Right, Mr. Van
Yeah,
Giens?
that is true. It is a conversation on the state level, on the national level, and it's just interesting that this is really an industry that 20 years ago or so, Apple going and made in North Carolina, and then Meta and Facebook, but it's been the growth and the exponential growth of this. I think the evolution too of who is developing data centers has changed that, and then the technologies have changed greatly as well. Has risen it to being a top conversation across local, state, and national levels there. And I think it's with so many being done. There are a few out there over the years that have been done in a way that probably haven't been the way we'd want them here in favorable Cumberland County. But the vast majority of the ones, especially the ones being done today, are very different than those that came 20, 25 years ago. If you look at how textile mills evolved from where they were when Cannon Mills opened down in Kannapolis in the early 1900s to the advanced textiles that are done all over the state now with automation and high-paying jobs, that's what we've seen with this industry as well. I mean, I think some of the things around, there's a lot of data out there, and some of it is older or from projects that, in a past time. For example, water usage. We talk about that all the time. Everything we're talking that's coming out now is all closed loop. You're talking about a few hundred gallons a day versus millions of gallons a day, as some people might believe it to be. They talk about discharges, and there may be projects out there that do a discharge into the environment, but everything that we would look at and consider here would have to go through the same processes that a Goodyear or a Hummel Manufacturing has to go through with their process water. It would be pre-treated and go through the PWC system. And so I think it's important that we make clear and help people understand the regulatory things that we have in place here in this community, whether it would be for a data center or whether it be for a new advanced manufacturing plant or whether it be for some other process, that we have things here that we require at a base level for all of these projects, which is that they don't interrupt the public water supply, that their water is, their wastewater is treated, that we have a local DEQ office here that manages the air quality permits and the like of that. And you've got local legislators, both at the city and the county and the town levels, that want to ensure that they have good and rigorous regulations in place to protect their citizens.
Sure. Well, look, we're going to a break. For those tuning in, we have Councilmember Brendan McNair, District 7, Mr. Robert Van Giens, he's the President and CEO of the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Development Corporation, Mr. Andrew Mansell, Assistant to the City Manager, and Mr. Andy Brayboy, Senior Performance Analyst. And look, we're discussing data centers. But look, let me say this before we go to the break. I love history. Man, there's a part of history when they came up with a car and they said it won't work and it's going to kill people. And it did. However, people were against it. You know what I mean? Let's stick with old Tricky here, the horse. And then, if it hadn't been for them making up the traffic lights, because people were getting killed, trying to get across the street. So what I'm just saying is, look, change is inevitable. I'm a Trekkie, like the Borg.
Can you imagine if the dinosaurs were still here?
Yeah, people probably have pet Tyrannosauruses, but anyway, we're going to a break. We'll be right back.
The House Ethics Committee has recommended that North Carolina Republican Congressman Chuck Edwards face censure. A months-long investigation concluded that Edwards engaged in unwelcome sexual advances and inappropriate conduct toward 2 young female staffers. Edwards denies any impropriety. Hemp business owners from across North Carolina gathered in Raleigh yesterday to oppose House Bill 328, saying that proposed legislation would effectively ban many hemp products. The town of Zebulon's finance director retiring just weeks after state auditors released a report detailing a lack of financial oversight in the town. Lebanese and Israeli negotiators talking again about a possible ceasefire for Lebanon. 25 states, and North Carolina is one of them, suing the Trump administration over its latest tariffs, calling them a pretext for replacing import taxes the Supreme Court struck down earlier this year. Tony Bixby, NCN News.
I'm Jamie Monticelli, WIDU Radio News. The Fayetteville Fire Department says summer is here. Stay fire safe. As temperatures rise and outdoor activities heat up, so does the risk of fire. Whether you are grilling in the backyard, enjoying a campfire, it's important to be mindful of fire dangers, especially during hot, dry conditions. Here are a few summer safety reminders. Never leave your grill unattended. Dispose of smoking materials safely. Make sure your fire alarms are working. Cumberland County Schools says be a connector, be a resource, be a champion for families. Become a CCS family ambassador and help strengthen connections among families, schools, and the district. CCS family ambassadors share helpful information, connect families with resources, and support family engagement efforts at their schools and in their attendance areas. Eligible family ambassadors may earn up to $150 per month. From WIDU Radio, I'm Jamie Monticelli.
We're tracking an area of low pressure right near the Carolinas, and that's going to lead to an enhanced chance of showers and thunderstorms for our Tuesday. We're starting out very warm, temperatures in the 70s, highs in the low to mid 80s, again with that high chance of showers and storms this afternoon. Overnight, we're in the 70s with a lower chance of showers and storms, but by Wednesday, more scattered storms and highs in the 80s expected. I'm meteorologist Chris Michaels in the NCN weather.
If you've been injured in an accident due to the negligence of others, you need an attorney, true and tried, that will ensure that you get the result that you deserve. Call attorneys Candace McKnight and Ariel Chapman at the Rogers Building. Attorney McKnight and Attorney Chapman have years of experience with positive results. Call them at 910-433-0833 at the Rogers Building, 111 Pershing Street.
Ladies, it's your time to shine. Join Faith Tabernacle Christian Center for a weekend of ministry, fellowship, and fun during our Sisters Retreat 2026 in Myrtle Beach, October 2nd through 4th, hosted by Pastor Denise Goings. This wonderful retreat will take place in Myrtle Beach and will include transportation by a chartered coach to and from Myrtle Beach, 2-night stay at a luxurious oceanfront property, 2 meals, several life-changing seminars and workshops throughout the weekend by Pastor Denise Goings and others, t-shirts, door prizes, and much more. All this for the early bird rate of just $300 per person. In a double bedroom with a 2 or 3 bedroom condo, a deposit of at least $75 is needed to register. Registration is open until September 20th, but space is limited. So go online and register now. Don't miss this opportunity to get away and fellowship during this life-changing weekend for ladies only. To register, call 910-865-5252 or visit us online at ftccenter.org.
Hi, I'm Mitch Colvin, president of Colvin Funeral Home and Crematorium. For over 50 years, our family has provided professional services with dignity, compassion, and respect with families during a time of need. We realize funeral services are as unique as those we're honoring. We offer a variety of affordable, quality services tailored to meet each family's needs, specializing in burial and cremation services. Proudly servicing Cumberland, Robinson, Hope, Harnett, Bladen, and surrounding counties from 2 locations, 2010 Murchison Road, Fayetteville, 1904 Elizabethtown Road, Lumberton. For more information, visit our website, www.hmcolvin.com.
Hey, Cumberland County, you're invited to Coffee with the Commissioners, a chance to ask questions, share ideas, and learn more about Cumberland County government. Stop by on August 4th from 6 to 7 p.m. at Bethany Rural Fire Department, or August 19th from 8 to 9 a.m. at the Hope Mills Public Safety Center. Learn more at cumberlandcountync.gov or follow ccnc.gov on social media.
And we're back now again. This morning, we're talking data centers, and I said I got a question. You answered that question. I got that from a city council member elect. I'll let you answer that, Mr. Van Giens. But anyway, so we have Mr. Robert Van Giens, President CEO of the Fayetteville Cumberland County Economic Corporation, Mr. Andrew Mansell, Assistant to the City Manager, Mr. Andy Brayboy, the Senior Performance Analyst, and Ms. Councilmember Brenda McNair, who is District 7. All of them were on the trip along with the mayor and Councilman Davis, and also City Manager Doug Hewitt went on this trip. Let me go to the question that she had first. Do you remember I asked you,
What size data centers?
Yeah, say what size were the data centers in Loudon?
Yeah, we actually did, initially we did a tour working together here in North Carolina where we saw very small data centers at the 1 megawatt side with MCNC. Well, that was great though because we were able to get see even where some of the city's data is backed up and kept. And then we also saw the 10 megawatt range, which is a facility geared towards smaller users, what I would call smaller users in the data center world, but bigger than anything I do on a daily basis in Raleigh. And then this time we were in a 100 megawatt, million square foot hyperscaler there in DC. We actually got to go everywhere from inside the generators to their cooling rooms to into the actual, some of the co-location spaces themselves where the cages are with the servers that are running. It even got some fans on the roof.
So a million square feet is how much? I mean,
that's roughly the size of the Amazon warehouse up on as a good comparison.
Bragg Boulevard.
Yes. That's
okay.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's good optics.
And
okay.
that would be one of the larger size, hyperscalers out there. I mean, this is one of the larger facilities you're going to find.
Right. So the city staff has some stuff they wanted to share as well, Ms. Mansell and Mr. Brayboy, about some things that you guys encountered and that you want to share that information.
Yes, sir. As part of our trip, we wanted to make sure that not only were we able to see some of these facilities, go inside of them, but we also wanted to meet with the community. As Ms. McNair mentioned, that she talked with some of the residents, but also meeting with some of the policymakers, the legislators, and people that work there in the city. We were lucky enough to meet with Mr. Michael Turner. He's the Ashburn District Supervisor of Loudoun County, and he leads on energy and land use for data centers and sits on several committee boards there. Has a wealth of information that he not only has learned over his past however many years he's been there, but he also wrote an incredible white paper that is sort of a policy and discussion overview of what things to consider in data centers, and as you're looking into them, things that you should make sure that are rooted in your policies. Some of the things that he brought up specifically about noise that I think we kind of knew about, but was better to hear from him. There's a difference between dBA frequency noise and dBc frequency noise. So the low frequency tonal hum is measured on a dBc scale, which they recommend you measure both of those at the beginning and before data center is built and then after it's built, to see the difference and make sure that they're one number isn't off the out of regulation and too much off the scale. They also mentioned decommissioning, which is a great thing to consider as you're building out a large number of data centers. Technology is moving so quickly. Will data centers need such a large space in 20 years? And then you're left with these big boxes of buildings, and then what do you do with them afterwards? They actually have a decommissioning fund that they're setting aside money for future sort of impacts, and as if the data centers don't need that much space, what do you do with the building, right? And that's what these decommissioning funds are for, to help, make sure that you're not just left with empty building spaces in your area.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow.
And also, it was important that Mr. Turner, he noted they also recommend what you call a CBA, a community benefit agreement. Now, it is important context to consider, and Robert, we've discussed this, the difference in the state. Those are in Virginia. So the fortunate position that we're in is that we are doing a lot of pre-work before these data centers may or may not, come into the community. So we have to do the groundwork on what is possible from a North Carolina, what is allowed in North Carolina versus what is allowed in Virginia. So those things like a community benefit agreement, which is just an agreement between the data center and the community base. Awesome idea. We just had to ensure that we're able to go that route. As Andrew mentioned, decommissioning agreements are important. It was also noted from Mr. Turner that, this is the largest cluster in America, and you could probably say potentially the world as far as a cluster of data centers. And with I think they have 253, if I'm not mistaken, and they only use about 10% of total water capacity for Loudoun County. So that was very interesting data point that we captured from the Loudoun County visit, is that, and even when we met with our state representative from NC State, he mentioned a similar perspective as well, is that the water side is not so much of an issue when it comes to capacity as it is energy, is the larger strain, because it is such a strain on the grid. And we've, through all of our research, what we're realizing in the speaking with all the experts, and actually witnessing it firsthand, is that there's going to be a trade-off either way. So if you go with a system that uses more water, you'll have less energy use. If you go with a system that uses less water, like a closed loop system, I know you've heard that term by now, the closed loop water system, you're probably going to use more energy. So it is a trade-off. And when we are in the fortunate position that we're learning from the industry experts, the ones like Loudoun County that's been in this business for almost 30 years now. As Robert mentioned, it was there were no regulations at the time back then. So the data centers caught the wave, and Loudoun County exploded from the data center wave. And now a part of their perspective that they're looking at is not that we don't want them, but it's kind of time to diversify from their perspective. They've been in the data center game for so long. They're looking at it from a different perspective that we're in. Now, Councilmember McNair and I, we were pretty much on this tour together the entire time, so we had a lot of productive conversations. And she can attest, as you drive through this, what they consider data center alley, you look left and right, and it's just another data center. And council member, she would say, so what is this building? I would say, that's a data center. And what is this building? That's a data center as well.
Like Vegas, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, every direction that you look at was a data center. And now that's Loudoun County. That's data center alley. That's not Fayetteville.
Right.
Ours would be structured way differently. And Robert has done a lot of groundwork in that area of how ours would be structured here. And the good thing is, we were able to go and witness these firsthand and get on the sidewalks, get in the neighborhoods tangential to these facilities, talk to the residents, listen for ourselves, witness it for ourselves. So we have that firsthand field observation perspective now. We're talking to the experts, we're looking at the research, and now we're just trying to tie all of that together and give the best package for the residents.
Sure. So now, Robert, I think this is the challenge from what I'm seeing. I was talking to an elected official about this. Sometimes people that oppose things, they paint themselves in a corner. It's like, hey, look, this is terrible, and regardless of what you present to them, they've already made up in their mind that this is the evil empire. Okay, so PR-wise, what do you believe needs to happen just so that our citizens can have a unbiased, logical approach to this information that's non-emotional?
Well, I think what the council's done, even in their meeting last night, and the discussions that are being had across the communities, with the county and the municipalities, that when you're able to bring in third-party external experts on it, I think it's a very positive way to get good information out there. The other side of it is they're on both extremes. There are people that are never going to be satisfied there, but it's for the vast majority of folks, in the middle that are willing to listen to the factual information. And there's always a good reason to be skeptical. And
Sure.
I think that's where regulations need to come in. I think what we saw, and by going there, we don't want to be, nor physically could we be, like Loudoun County. But when you're able to see it that intense, you can see things like buffers work and make a difference. That we can do things, and location matters. Next to a highway is very different than, say, out in a rural, completely flat setting. And so how those buffers and screening and the type of equipment used matter, and putting the burden on the company to demonstrate proactively through sound studies, through predictive analytics, through third-party monitoring, through all of these types of things, through certifications with DEQ and PwC and others. That's where you can then, for the people that are willing to hear, say, I am not sure that I'm for this. However, I am confident, based on what is being adopted, that there's a regulatory and performative monitoring framework that will ensure that the company does what they say they're going to do. And I think that's, in some cases, the best that we can do on that there.
Yeah, could you talk about a little bit about, you guys saw one of those generators, like, I hope they would make one for my refrigerator at home, the one like you're describing.
Yeah, I think that the generators running is when they start, and the type of exhaust system on them, having the best there that removes pollutants, but we walked into one, and it has been there since 2017, and it has run a total of 68 hours over 9 years. So that's a total run time of 68 hours of run over 9 years, and that's the testing, and that is in case of emergency, and also the other time being that in some places they run those to take load off of the grid to allow for that to be available for other uses.
Right, right.
And to Robert's point, speaking of the generators, by us having the fortunate ability to be able to tour one of these large-scale hyperscalers, we actually got to see the design of the building and how they've strategically located these generators for that sound dampening strategy that they've employed within the actual infrastructure itself. So the generator that we witnessed, it literally sat in the center of the entire complex, which would be in turn surrounded by concrete, basically.
I don't think you'd be able to hear it if it was on,
Right.
sitting on the road.
Right.
Wow. Well, look, we're going to go to the phones, and who do we have there? Okay, Mayor. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. How you doing? I just wanted to say that Councilwoman McNair, I know we had a long night last night. I think we got out there about 10:30, but she did a great job. I know you've recapped a lot of her trip, and she actually went door to door and talked to people, and so I really commend her. It was really her idea to take the trips so that you can actually see and separate what's real and what's perceived, or what the rumors are, or what some of the bad cases you see online. So we encourage everybody. We know this is an emotional decision because it's the unknown, but as we deal with it the way that we should deal with it, I commend her and the council members for taking their personal time and driving up and trying to learn more to make the best decision for our community. So, and last night, a lot of people expressed their opinions, but it was a few that I did have some one-on-one conversations with and said, hey, have you ever seen one of these data centers in person? And 99% of them had not. And so, do your facts, do your research, but the city council is doing theirs. And I think every municipality in town at some point are going to have this conversation and put some ordinances in place, because right now they don't exist.
Right. Well, like I was saying, it's just, but the reality is this, though. If someone is talking to you from an emotional place, and it seems just, I don't know, I haven't done any research, but I'm looking at this. It seems like some people have really taken this from an emotional stance. It's good. You're going to have your work laid out for you to try and reach them with a logical debate or discussion.
Yeah, I think that's originally why I personally made that decision. One time I was there for a different meeting. I was like, we're going to spend this day just driving. We're going to go out and find these ones that have been complained about and reported. We're going to stand in those neighborhoods and we're going to walk it. And I'll honestly say that it was very eye-opening to me in this last trip is there are surely projects out there that weren't done right in different places. But when they're done right, when you talk to the neighbors who live next door, when you stand on that corner, when you stand only a few feet away, you realize that it's something that can be properly regulated and can coexist in a community, bringing jobs and tax base.
Right. And I would say those individuals that really you super oppose this, give it a chance, go do that. Go do your research. I mean, really that's the way you do research. You come up and say, okay, let me try to prove that I'm wrong concerning something, And I think that's a healthy way for our community. Because, guys, look, we're tier one. Come on. We got to get out of what we're in now. Look, I mean, you don't want this, but you got to want something because we are a poor county. We're a poor community. And we need to be trying to find ways to dig ourselves out of this hole. I mean, that's just reality.
Well, and as elected officials, we have to make tough decisions, and we can't make emotional decisions and decisions that are not based in reality or fact. And so, we're doing our due diligence and trying to protect this community because we live here and we love it. But again, just like you said, some people are never going to support it, but we've got to make the decisions that are better for the greater good. Our schools need funding. Our roads need funding. And Troy, this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll jump off. It's a little disappointing when people who are upset about it are trying to make a point and say it's about money as if it's for us. the money we're talking about is for this community and try to get us out of a Tier 1 status, because our schools need funding, our roads need funding, and Loudoun County has schools that are very prosperous, and the students and the teacher pay is the highest in the state. So, there's a lot of things that come with it, but we need to do it right and responsible.
Sure. Well, but Mr. Mayor, I say this. Look, somebody is going to get paid. I mean, you're not going to bring a business to town and somebody's not going to make some money off of it. But hey, look, I'm not opposing that. Matter of fact, if you want to give me some, I take it.
It's not council members, So that's the thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but not the council members, right? But well, look, let it be Troy, okay? Just kidding. No, I'm serious.
You like your mill to blow up, don't you? So, Troy said that. Well, look, thank y'all for having me. Good job. And to our staff, Mr. Lowry there, he did a great job, and Robo as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, look, going to move on. We got about 5 minutes left. I'll let y'all divvy that up how you want to. Let's go back to staff. Any closing comments you guys want to make concerning this?
Just to follow up with what Mr. Van Giens was saying earlier, the word data center has just become a polarizing word. And I think if we could just call it something else, we could look at it objectively instead of emotionally. And that's what we've tried to do. Is we've studied through all the information that's out there, looked at the regulations, looked at all the different types of data centers, and then come up with what best fits in order to regulate them here.
Sure. All right, that's good. Let's come up with a different word.
And also, the fact that data centers have been here for a long time.
Right. I didn't realize you say 30 years. I'm like, wow.
I mean, they've been here for a long time. It's just that, there's more data out there. Technology's advancing, so the need is increasing. But from our perspective, we're just trying to look at every angle, all the research that is available and accessible. And our focus really goes back to the impacts for our residents, which is that noise, how is the power, the water capacity, our emissions, setbacks, how far is it from the nearest neighborhood or from the nearest parcel, and then the overall aesthetic of the data center, assuming it would come in. So that's a lot of information that we were able to gather from even the start from our local tours all the way up to the Loudoun County tour that we were able to capture.
Sure. Well, look, I guess applause for you, Councilman McNair, for kind of spearheading this trip. That's tremendous, and thank you from the community for having the insight to see and look. Let's go take a look. Comments from you?
Yes, sir, Mr. Troy. Thank you for inviting us today. However, what put however you said, the nail in the coffin is how to say it, for me was the 15 best practices, and all these guys here. I really commend you for doing the work that you do. And without that, I don't know, Council, we would be left out there on the limb. So, but anyway, we want to give kudos to you for actually taking care of us the whole entire time. And the 15 best practices that came from the Vice Chair, Commissioner Mike Turner, we want to make sure that whenever we do come up with the ordinance, that the citizens in this community and ourselves are protected. I don't think we're going to move forward without that. So if that's in the minds of some of the people, we will not move forward unless you are protected in this ordinance.
Sure. And let me say, look, Mr. Van Giens, Robert, he's a guitar player, and trust me, when you're a guitar player, they're just great guys. You got to trust them. Now they're creative.
Well, thank you, Troy. I think that though, on the broader conversation, be it on the local or on the state level or the national level, the policy concerns that are beyond the local level, the residential ratepayers shouldn't be subsidizing industrial customers like this. That's something we need to keep pushing for. We want these companies to pay their own way. And I think ultimately, too, it's important. We want to set regulations that require the companies that are the better actors in this to be the ones that come here. We are not looking to take the lowest common denominator. We can set a high bar because the sites and the opportunities are in demand to have good partners that commit to the community and deliver and do more than the minimum required. And that's what we're looking to do with our regulatory side, to protect the public, but also to attract the best and most well-intentioned and partnering companies out there.
Sure. Well, look, I want to thank you guys for making the decision late last night to be here this morning. Thank you, Councilmember McNair. Our most able producer today, Reverend Carl, is doing a great job over there. And, we have a sports show on Mondays, and he's wearing this cowboy oh, my God, I can't stand it. Anyway,
that's the team.
whatever.
That is the team.
Yeah, okay, all right, whatever. But anyway, though, love you guys. Have a great day. Thank you all that tuned in. If you have questions, follow up with these folk. I'm sure they got emails and all those other kind of things. Let's have a good discussion about this. There's no need for us to be nasty with each other as we move forward with this. Look, let's move forward in a logical way. Our children are looking at us, okay? You know what I mean? So
we have to move forward regardless.
That's true. Right, we do.
We can't remain stagnant.
Yeah, but I'm glad to have a chance to meet you guys, and hope that you'll come back. Our doors on welcome hinges. Something else, let's bring them back in. Let's have another conversation. Thank you so much. Supposed to be a high of 82 today, so it'd be a nice day to be out if you're not doing something else. So enjoy the day, but thank you for tuning in with us.